So this is the Surface Duo 2. This is the Surface Duo 2, my daily driver at the moment. I've been using this for a little bit now, and I just want to talk about my first impressions using it. Right off the bat, when I took it out the box, I unfolded it. I was like, wow, it's a beautiful device. It's very beautifully made. Like the build quality of it is so nice. It looks so clean and crispy. And at the time, I didn't have my case and pen, so let me just take that off, to go with the story. Yeah. When I first got it, it was like this, the shiny, clean Microsoft logo right here, and then it's so clean, so nice. It's so thin, and how can a device be this thin and do this? Like, how can it just do yoga like that? How can it flip and turn and all that stuff? It's just so solid and sick. So yeah, when I first picked it up, I was like, wow, this is beautiful. So right off the bat, what I really noticed was the 90 hertz screen. It's not as good as 120 hertz on, the iPhone or my Samsung devices, my iPad, my G14. 120 hertz is definitely better, but 90 hertz is clean, it's butter still. I was really surprised to see how smooth it was. It was like very fluid compared to what people were saying. People were saying it's a super laggy device and there's so many issues with it. But when I first turned it on, it felt really nice. Like, swiping and stuff like that, going through the UI, really clean and nice. When I started to play around with the phone, do the gestures for the first time, turn it into phone mode for the first time, I was like, yo, this is so sick. This is so crazy. Like, again, how can a device do this? How can a device do stuff like this? And one thing that I was really, trying to pay attention to and keep my eye on is when you turn it into phone mode like this, a lot of people are complaining about the camera bump. They're saying it makes the device ugly, it's not usable, things like that. But honestly, I never had Surface Duo 1. I was really interested in it, but I didn't get it because of the software issues. But yeah, I never had the first Surface Duo, so I didn't really experience it completely flat like that one without the camera bump. But the camera bump is not that bad. It's not that serious to me. Like, this still feels really nice to hold in my hand like this. And if anything, it gives you like a position where you can put your finger kind of slightly in between as you're holding it. So there's more, at least for me, it feels like there's a lot of grip with that. And when I'm playing games, I can put my fingers up here like it's triggers. So that little space in between is not a terrible thing for me. And it really didn't hinder or affect my experience at all. The only thing that is weird about it is how it looks. Like, it looks kind of off. It looks weird when you're just looking at it. But in your actual experience using it, for me personally, there's nothing wrong with the camera bump. There's really no issue with it. It doesn't get in the way at all. It feels kind of natural, to be honest. Like, when I'm holding it like this in my hand, if you can see, it feels alright. And then the way that I use my left hand on my phones anyways, like this, it feels like it fits. Like, it makes sense for it to slant that way, towards that way. If I go to the other side, it works fine, like just like that. I go to the other side now, then it still feels natural. Like, it kind of feels like it's supposed to, be off, slanted in a sense. Like, I don't know, like the weight distribution kind of balances, as weirdly as that sounds. So yeah, my experience with phone mode is not hindered by the camera bump. The only thing that I will say in regards to the camera bump is that, like, looking at the device from this perspective, the back, it doesn't look as good as the front of it. Like, the front, it looks beautiful. It's a really cool looking device. The back, yeah, it doesn't look as good. This camera bump is kind of, it's bulging out of the phone. But it's not terrible. It doesn't look bad at all. I think it still looks pretty clean for what they did. Overall, it's been a really good experience, very smooth. I haven't really had too many problems. But one thing that I'm realizing about the Surface Duo and my first impressions of using it is that it's not a simple device. It's not like your other phones and tablets. It's not just something that you can pick up and use. Kind of like my gaming laptop video, the Asus G14. It's not something that you can just pick up and use. You really have to learn how to use this device. You have to learn its quirks and all the ways that it functions and stuff like that, because it functions differently. No matter how you want to look at it, yes, it is a smartphone or whatever, it is running Android like every other phone, but it functions differently from all those phones. Like I said, you have to learn it. Like, just the basic gestures, like, in a sense, they work the same as like every other Android phone, but they kind of function differently. And if you use the device, you'll kind of know what I mean. Like, for example, swiping up, like to bring up your recent apps, you have to understand how the animation works in order to use it smoothly. If you don't understand how the animation works, then you're going to be doing it and you're going to also be doing something else. And, it's going to feel like it's glitching and causing problems, but really you just don't understand what's happening. So swiping up, I understand how the animation works and I'm going to do it properly every single time. But if you don't understand how the animations work, then you're going to do stuff like this where you're trying to swipe up and it's not working, or you're going to the side by accident and things like that. So that's just one example. Another example is like, let's say you want to bring up the app drawer. You want to see all your apps. You have to swipe up from a certain point, or otherwise you're gonna, it's not gonna work. You're gonna do other stuff on the phone. So you have to know where to swipe to get your app drawer, and swiping down for the notifications. This phone unfortunately doesn't have on any point of the screen, so you have to swipe down from the top of the screen. Otherwise you're gonna get to your search bar. So that's something that you need to learn and be aware of. It's pretty simple, but at the same time it can cause problems if you don't take time to actually ingrain it into your mind that this is how it works. And there's other animation things like turning the phone to the side with auto rotate is turned off. So turning the phone to the side or turning it back to portrait, you have to understand the animation. Otherwise, if you don't, you're gonna do things and then something's gonna happen that you weren't expecting, and you're gonna feel like it's a glitch. So overall, what I'm saying is that this phone, you need to learn it. It takes time to learn how it works, to learn that. I think what is really important about it is the animations. Like, I think it's Microsoft's lack of experience with, Android devices. I think that's the reason why, there's certain animations and things like that are not like the smoothest or like not the most practical. Because I think, the animations work well. Like now at least, they updated it so that, there's proper animations when you swipe out of apps and stuff like that. But like the way they work is just not practical and completely polished. So you kind of have to learn that. And it's not like it's glitching. It's more like it's just not like fully polished, if that makes sense. It could be more optimized. And it's getting better. Like after the February update, the phone feels so much smoother. Some people are saying it's placebo. Some people are saying they're still having problems, which they might. But for me personally, it feels a lot smoother, It feels faster. It feels more responsive. Even though it was already good in the first place for me. Like, I feel like I'm actually seeing 90 hertz most of the time on this screen, on both of these screens. But yeah, there's a learning curve, especially with using the two dual screens in synergy, doing the different gestures, sending an app to the other side of the screen, or spanning it, bringing it back to one side, or I close it by accident, but yeah, sending an app to one side, things like that. Even like just now you saw me miss the swipe. It's not because the phone is glitching or not picking up my input, it's because I did it wrong. If I do it right, it works 100% of the time. So like, all the gestures work fine. It's just learning about how they work and where you need to actually swipe from and touch in order to make things function properly. So it's a learning curve. And yeah, I mean, it could definitely improve, right? Like, I'm not saying this device is perfect at all. Like, oh yeah, so this is a good example of the learning curve. So when you turn it to landscape mode, the apps, like all the functionality in terms of like switching apps and stuff like that, and dragging apps, or spanning and stuff like that, it turns to the right side of the phone screen on both screens. So for example, the app drawer comes up from the right side. It no longer comes up from the bottom, because like it feels weird, but it kind of makes sense when you think about the two screens functionality. Like how are you gonna swipe from the bottom if you need to go to a different screen? I guess this is how they thought it would work best, instead of like swiping to the left or right like how you would in portrait mode to go to the different home screens. It's now up or down like this, because it does make sense actually, because when you swipe out of the app and both screens are on the home screen, now you use both things like that. It's like waterfall, up or down. So everything is from the right side, like I said. So You got your app drawer, you swipe up from the right, then you don't swipe from the bottom to access your recent apps. You swipe from the right side, like I said, and then you can send it up there like that, like how you would in portrait mode, but up instead of left or right, and then you can send it back down. But that's a learning curve. You have to learn that and put it in your mind that when it's in landscape mode, everything comes from the right side, not from the bottom like it would normally, like this. Like bringing up my recent apps, dismissing it, app drawer. When you go into landscape mode, this is just up or down. If that makes sense. Like, hopefully you understand what I'm trying to say. But yeah, it's a learning curve. So you really got to take time to learn the device. And that's the biggest thing that I got from this device in my first impression so far. But overall, it's a really good experience. And in combination with this beautiful case and pen, it just feels really nice. Like, the pen inking on these two screens is beautiful. Really good experience for me personally. I wish it had the haptic experience that this pen is capable of. One thing that I find so cool to me, like every time I use this device or look at it, is that the fact that the phone itself, through this case, charges the pen. Like when I snap the pen onto this phone and I see the little white light, it feels so cool. Like this is, technology. Yeah, I like the flexibility of the hinge. So many different things you can do with it. Like you can have it sit like this. Temp mode have, video playing on this side. Or you can have it sit like this, video playing here, something at the bottom. Or you can even have it sit like this. I don't know why you would want to, but you can do this and then, angle it however you want. And then you can have it even sit on a table like this. Because of the angle, it will sit properly and it won't shake or anything like that. It's stable. Or you can have it sit like this. So, something is right here and then this is the other screen is at the back, keeping it stable. Like you can do different things with the hinge. It's really cool design. The last thing I'll talk about is the cameras. People have been saying these cameras are trash, and in my opinion, these cameras are not trash. I think these cameras are even as good. This might be surprising or a reach, but I think these cameras are as good as the 13 Pro Max, the iPhone 13 Pro Max, and the S21 Ultra cameras. Like, obviously, the things that make those cameras really good and a good experience is the flexibility and the ease of use. So like with the iPhone, you can just pull out your pocket and boom, you're gonna get 9 times out of 10, you're gonna get a really good image. Same with the S21 Ultra, you're gonna get a really good image most times when you pull it out of your pocket and you just start going. The stabilization for videos is amazing on both of those devices. You don't really need a gimbal or a tripod. So that is why people say this camera system on this phone is bad. It's not because they're actually bad that the hardware sucks or even the computational aspect of it is terrible. It's that the experience is bad, so people say it's bad. But when you really take time to use these cameras on this phone, you really see that they actually are really good. Like side by side with iPhone 13 Pro Max pictures and even videos, the quality that you get out of this is pretty decent. And like obviously it's not going to be as good as those ones, but for what it is, not even for what it is, just in general, it's a really good camera system. My favorite thing about it though is the style side of it. The colors that this thing produces and the way that it makes videos and photos look is so like reminiscent to like old school photography, old school video. Like it has like a Hollywood movie looking color grading to it. Like when you film video with this, I think it's really cool, and I'm excited to test it out and do so many more things with it. And I really like how it takes photos. Like there's just something about the colors and the way that it makes it look. Obviously that's a personal preference, a style thing, but in general, like it's a really good camera. Like there's a lot of detail. It's pretty sharp photos for the most part. The only thing is like I said, the experience using it and learning it. Like you can't just take this out and use and just take a photo. You have to understand how it works. You have to understand that because it's Microsoft, they're not that good at like the software side of things, like the phone detecting, what the lighting should be, what compensations it should make for the scene that it's viewing. The phone is not that good at those things, but once you get it down, once you understand the settings, it's pretty good. It does a really good job, and I really enjoy using it. One of my favorite things with this, I'm gonna make videos more on this, but is using it like this. Like you can summon the camera by pressing the button twice, the power button, and then you can use the volume rockers to take photos and videos. So you can do that while the screen is closed, so you can't see anything. That is something that I really enjoy. Like, it kind of reminds me of old school cameras. Like, you can look through the optical viewfinder, but you can't really tell what kind of image you're gonna get until you see the image. So I can go around shooting blind photos, having fun. Some people might think that's stupid, but to me, that's, as somebody who really enjoys photography, I'm not a professional, but I think that's really cool and something that is really fun to experiment with and just take shots. Like, it gets rid of the stress of like, I have to line it up properly, I have to do this and that to make the image look good. I'm just taking photos, I'll angle it, I'll do my best to, frame it as well as I can with my knowledge of how the camera looks, where it is and stuff like that. But the result is always going to be something that I won't know how it looks until I look at it. So I think that's really cool and it's really fun. These cameras are really cool and you really just have to learn it. That's the theme of this video. Take time to learn this device. If you're gonna buy it or use it, or if you have it and you're frustrated, take time. You need patience. Otherwise, you might as well just get an iPhone or a Samsung, because those will work for you out of the box for sure. But yeah, I'm really excited to see where Microsoft goes with the software updates. Every update has improved it, and yeah, it's gonna be fun. Android 12 large that Google is making should, hopefully, I'm praying that it should impact this device in a very positive way and make the experience so much better. The small quirks that I've shown and talked about in this video, hopefully those things are gone and it's just easy to use, because the form factor makes sense. There's so many things you can use it with and do with it. For a lot of different people, it makes sense for a lot of different people to have two screens. So hopefully they continue to improve it. And yeah, that is my first impression of this video. It's kind of long, but if you watched it, then thank you so much. And yeah, we out. Peace.